Well, here's what it looks like inside out, I guess. I want to make a skirt to wear to an event at the art museum. And I also want to buy a top to go with it. This is what I wore last time to the art museum, and it is just not extra enough, if you know what I mean. This time we're going to the art museum extra from head to toe. So for the skirt, I picked this pattern, which seems like a very topsy-turvy skirt to make if you look at it closely. Like, how does one actually make this twist? But maybe the more bigger question is this skirt extra enough? Well, we're gonna make it extra enough. This was an outfit that I wore to a previous event that I went to at the art museum, and it's kind of boring. Like, I'm wearing leather pants, my shoes are cool, but it's just a sweater and pants. I'm going for a whole head to toe look. Because as some of you may know, my New Year's resolution is to be more extra. And this outfit is just not cutting it. Especially for an event at an art museum. Like, where can you be, I don't know, flamboyant if it's not at the art museum? I want something more eye-catching, more magnificent, more like, well, like this. Oh my God, should I just like wrap myself in it? Should I make it into a cape? New plan. I'm just joking. This is kind of making me want to train. This fabric is just so freaking wow. So yes, this was or is the fabric that I chose to make the skirt out of. And I'm gonna have to be really careful with it. Well, at least first things, I already kind of screwed it up. But secondly, I'm going to have to be very careful when ironing this because it's like a foily fabric. If I just stuck a hot iron on there, I feel like it would melt all over the iron, and I want to avoid that situation. Also, I've never worked with foil before in a sewing machine, so we're gonna have to try out some different methods and maybe some different threads. And how did I screw this up already, you ask? Well, I pre-washed it, which is actually what you're supposed to do. But this was actually supposed to be more of a royal blue like this, and now it's definitely not a royal blue. By washing it, I already took some of the color out of it, but I just have to roll with it at this point. I've already bought the fabric, I don't want to waste it. So again, this is the pattern that I'm choosing to make the skirt out of. And why did I choose this pattern? Well, to be honest, I just saw this little twist thing and always wanted to learn how to do that. Plus, I thought it would be a good pattern to use to execute my vision for the whole look. But is the skirt extra enough? Because actually, it's not just about the skirt. But if I can't make the skirt work in the fabric and pattern, then the whole look, which includes a jacket, a DIY jacket, and a top, goes like kaplooey. I keep laughing at the word kaplooey, like who says that? Then I would be without anything to wear to the art museum, and like it'll just spiral from there. So we got our work cut out for us. I've got my fabric laid out, and now I'm just gonna start putting the pattern pieces on top and cutting them out. This is the back piece, and I don't know if you can see, but there's actually like a stain on the fabric. Luckily you can't see it through on the right side, but yeah, there's gonna be a stain on my bum with this skirt. I have never worked with this fabric before, so I have a couple of test pieces. And I'm kind of curious how it's gonna fit through the machine, like what stitches to use, what thread to use. So I'm just gonna practice. And I've got normal polyester thread on top, Elo Flex, which is like stretchy thread on the bottom. And I'm gonna start with a straight stitch and see what happens. It'd probably help if my needle was threaded. Looks good. Is it stretchy? Oh, threads definitely broke, so that's not going to work. Plan B. So next stitch I'm gonna try is a zigzag stitch with both like normal thread on the bottom. And let's see. Oh yeah, nice and stretchy, no problems, no thread is breaking. I think we're ready to start sewing. One thing I'm just now noticing as I'm prepping the pattern pieces is these like mermaid-like tails on the ends of two of the skirt pieces. You can definitely tell a difference. This is definitely more of a V versus this one, which is barely a U. Barely like more curved U shape. And this yoke is supposed to, I'm assuming, somehow attach to them and definitely does not look as severe as this one. So can't wait to see how that turns out. I've reached the point where it's time to start ironing, which, as we know, was one of my concerns with how to work with this fabric. Oh, that's the bottom. Left is attached to the right. I have to iron out this seam, but I don't want the iron to stick to the foil of the fabric. So what am I gonna do? I'm going to iron like normal, except I'm gonna cover it with a pillowcase. And this is a little trick that my mom taught me whenever you're trying to, not exactly the easiest pattern to work with, but anytime I'm trying to protect fabric, I'll put a pillowcase over it. So I'm gonna iron out these seams like normal, just so far so good. This is the real test though, doing it on the right side. I actually think that worked pretty well. Oh yeah, nice flat seam, fabric is unscorched. And now we're getting right into it, making the loop. These are my two front pieces that don't look like front pieces yet. This is the left front, this is the right front. I guess that doesn't really matter, but I'm taking my left front piece and I'm folding it over just like this. And I'm gonna match up the ends, my notches, and these little dots. And then I'm gonna sew from here all the way over to here, and that's gonna leave an open hole loop. We are not even one loop in yet, and I already feel a little uncomfortable with this. It's already kind of topsy-turvy, and let me show you what I mean. I've got what I just showed you pinned down, and it is definitely not laying super flat, but this is a dot right here that I have reinforced, and I'm just gonna sew from this dot all the way over to the edge and kind of hope that this works itself out. I'm taking a break from the project because of what was the bloodbath of broken needles and broken seam rippers yesterday. That's right, broken seam ripper. Yeah, this was the aftermath that was yesterday. I got my screwdriver because I had to take my machine apart. We've got a broken seam ripper like twice. Here's broken needle, and here's parts of my broken seam ripper, and just fluff from the inside of my sewing machine. I think we left off with making the fabric loop and the fabric not exactly laying flat and hoping that it kind of worked itself out. Well, it worked itself out, as well as me working my machine out after multiple broken needles. And let me show you. Okay, so where we left off is I was gonna sew from here to here, and yes, the fabric is laying flat, never mind some of the aftermath from yesterday, good Lord. This space from here to here ends up being a hole for where the little loop can happen. Well, would you look at that? Now how do we actually twist it through, and what do we twist through? All right, stay with me here. These are the fronts of the skirts. This is the left side, this is the right side, and we're going to flip this up and then take this and flip it, put it through our little hole right here. Oh my God, is this gonna be big enough? Oh, oh. Wow, that was actually very cool. Now we know. I did mark my center front and my center front on the pattern, so it'll help me know where to line up. And now I'm just going to attach from here to here. in, like I'm actually sewing towards the twist, and it's getting a little tight in here, but I guess that makes sense. Like we don't want the twist to untwist. So it needs to be like tight in there, but it does kind of feel like a lot of fabric and bunched up when I'm sewing this. Here we go, finishing it off. Not half bad. Okay, now it's telling me to press upper edge of front, but it's not telling me what direction. What direction do I sew the seam? Up, down, out? I guess it's anybody's guess. Ooh. Oh my gosh. Oh, I hope that I have some oil on my counter that I hope did not get on my fabric. I think we're in the clear. And I'm remembering to be careful with this fabric and that hot iron. I'm gonna protect it with my pillowcase. I'm trying to iron the seams flat without stretching the fabric, which is actually kind of difficult with this one. I also don't want to iron the twist part either. Should I just make this into a top? Kidding. Now that the front is officially finished, I started working on the back, which looks like this. And I've got this top yoke piece attached to the actual back. And I don't know how sewing people have come up with their names like yoke. What is a yoke? When I think of yoke, I think of like egg yolk, but this is Y-O-K-E, not Y-O-L-K. At some point, we're gonna be putting elastic in the back, and I don't quite know how we're going to do that. But first, I'm just gonna attach this to the front at the side seams. And we've reached a moment of truth with these little mermaid tails, is what I'm calling them. As I'm lining up the side seams, this from the back is most definitely not as sharp as what the front piece has. So we're just gonna have to pin and make this work. Also, please don't notice that, yes, on my back, I have where the foil's cut off. I did not notice while I was cutting that. But you know, I didn't want to waste a whole nother piece of cutting fabric when that will most likely end up in the seam allowance, and I think it'll be okay. I'm hoping it'll be okay. There might be a little bit showing. Okay, so here I go trying to get this fit. I obviously have my seams lined up here, so I know everything's good, and then I'm gonna line up my dots. So there's dot numero uno, dot, pretty darn close. I'll line up the edge. Yeah, that's wonky. Let me make sure I have my dots lined up. So I stuck a pin in up from the bottom to align the dots, and it looks relatively smooth. Stick a pin in it. Yeah, this is definitely more rough. My notches do not 100% line up, but it just feels right. Okay. Just gonna, as I'm sewing, I'm just gonna like straighten that out a little bit. Now I'm ready to sew up and sew each side together. A lot has happened in the last couple hours. First of all, we have a skirt that's starting to actually look like a skirt, and I wanted to show you that I was worried about that end piece showing, the not supposed to show part, and it barely shows. Whew, just got through that one by the skin of my teeth, but also like we're gonna end up folding this in, so it honestly doesn't matter anyway, like, whew, thank goodness. Anyone else get through half of their project and then run out of thread? Like, this is already a tricky color to match, and yeah, I ran out of thread halfway through. I don't even know if you can tell that I have two different colors when I overlock stitch, but you know, it's all on the inside, which is what we care about. It's time to bring in the elastic, and the elastic is gonna go on the back, and I'm pretty sure, to be honest, I don't know. This is why I call this pattern topsy-turvy, because it's confusing and there's a lot of inside outside. I think what we're gonna do is turn the garment inside out, and then we're gonna sew a casing right along the top here and then insert the elastic through it. Follow that? I mean, I was kind of hoping there was gonna be some elastic in here because I think it needs to be cinched up a little bit more to make sure it really fits tight around the waist. Just gonna sew 5/8 inch along here. This is my first time sewing with the foil side up, and I thought it was gonna get stuck on my machine just because it's a little sticky, but it's not doing that, and it's great. And I'm just sewing 5/8 inch in from the fold line so that I can make the casing for the elastic. No stick. I've got my guide for my elastic, so I know exactly how long I need to cut it. Perfect. Then you guys already know the drill. Got my elastic attached to my safety pin, and then I'm just gonna guide it right through there. All right, I'm trialing the elastic, and I think I'm gonna actually put it in a little bit tighter than what the pattern calls for, because I want it to sit up higher. I want it to be more of a high-waisted skirt. Okay. Okay. Well, here's what it looks like inside out, I guess. And now I feel like I have absolutely no grasp of how I'm actually supposed to finish this. What do I do? Oh, I just turn it inside out. This is gonna take some finagling. So I really don't love how this is, I'm having to do this. If I'm understanding the directions correctly, I basically am now doing a top stitch on the outside so I know that I'm as close to this seam as possible. I don't love knowing that there's a zigzag top stitch on the outside. I don't know. It doesn't say to stitch in the ditch or anything. I think this is kind of wonky and I don't like it. I don't like it. I've got my pins even on the inside. That's how I had to pin it. Kind of difficult to work with here. And I'm just making sure I'm sewing as close to this seam as possible. Good news is it doesn't look as terrible as I thought it was going to. Can you even see it? It's like, where's Waldo? You can see my, yeah, there we go, bingo. Now you can see it. But yeah, from far away, you're not gonna be able to tell. The hem, however, doesn't look quite as nice. I actually haven't finished the front yet. I only finished the back because, well, I need to give this a little break and I'll show you why. But if I come down to the hem, I have already ironed this multiple times and it is still quite bumpy. And who wants a bumpy bottom of a skirt? Here's what I think one of the issues was. I think my needle was too big because I broke the smaller one and didn't have another one. And also, I did not do a good job easing in the fullness, and that was the result. So now I'm gonna try a little harder on the slit. I just got done ironing this down. I have my seam flipped up 5/8 of an inch. And now to make a rolled hem, I'm just gonna roll this in right to that crease. And I'm gonna do this all the way up. Nothing can stop me, I'm all the way up. Yeah, we'll work on that. As I go along, I'm also gonna take the time to just really iron this down. because we want it nice and as smooth as possible. And I'm pressing down fairly hard. Much better. Every so often, I'm gonna iron it down. And I've got it right up there to the end of my other seam. And I'm taking this right up there to where my other seam ends. All right, we're up close and personal with sewing this narrow hem. So if you can see here how this is like trending along and then it's kind of getting like sucked in inwards, I think that this fabric against this presser foot, like it's a little sticky, so the presser foot is pulling it in. And I think that's part of the reason that I have such a disastrous hem down here. So to correct this, I am just gonna lift up on the presser foot, kind of crawl this back out. This is really hard to do with one hand. I'm basically gonna crawl that back out, put the presser foot back down. Okay, I had to do it with two hands, but basically what I did was I crawled this back out a little bit and then put my presser foot back down, and now it's lined up a little bit more evenly so I don't get, I guess, this like bunching problem. Ugh, that's not a straight stitch. So I'm not getting this bunching problem that I was down here. Because as much as no one wants, you know, a bumpy bottom of the skirt, no one wants a bumpy slit. Like, we can't have that. Oh yeah, like look at how much more smooth that is now. I mean, it's still like I can iron this out, but I don't have the dimples. Yeah, like I have down here. Success. And now that that's taken care of, let's look at the inside of this twist because it needs some attention. Here's the outside, which looks, I don't know, okay, except like here's the raw edge. Gotta be careful, but if I turn this to the inside, look at all this dead fabric. Like I've got it sewn to the seam allowance as far as I can go. Maybe go a little farther? I don't know. Still though, I still have all this. It's almost like a loop inside of a loop. Like what am I supposed to do with that? I just gotta make sure that you can't see a raw edge on the outside. Well, how do you like that? I just kind of tied both of them together loosely on the inside. No one's gonna know. I am, however, going to wait to try this on until I get the top because remember, we're going for a whole look. If I just wore this with a white t-shirt, I don't think it'd have the same impact as the top I bought to go with it. So stay tuned. I am actually not in love with this top, with this skirt. However, the top is actually the least important part of the whole look, but I still think the skirt looks amazing. It looks great. I am gonna be upcycling this trench coat to put some blue along the side to go with the whole ensemble. So the top is pretty much gonna be covered up anyway. I'm not gonna worry about it, but yeah, subscribe and stay tuned if you wanna see how I upcycle this trench coat. We're taking it from Inspector Gadget to hipper. Thanks for watching.